Yeah, let's see if stream and sound work today. The usual joy at the beginning. Well, here we go. A wonderful thing. Good morning, everybody, to the final sprint of this week and the final sprint of this month. It is February the 28th of, well, no, the other way around. It's Friday the 28th of February. How are you guys doing? Hey, Britain, how are you doing this evening for you? I see that you have continued reading God's Gods because you sent Derry and me a message. So there's that. And hey, Kale, how you doing down there in the future, as they say? I see the weekend has officially begun for you, Kale. How are you doing? And hello, dear Mr. Hayward. How are you? Yeah, what can I say? I am very deep in a reread of Rough Stone Rolling, the monstrous biography of Joseph Smith Jr. By Richard Lemon Bushman, and I'm more than halfway through, I think, or roughly halfway through. It's kind of hard to say. No, it's slightly over halfway through that monstrosity, and it's very detailed. I'll say that. Nice. I hope the Thursday night jam went well. Oh, wait. Okay, last night of summer? Yeah, in that case, opening a bottle of wine seems to be the appropriate reaction. Britain, I don't know. He may have pulled some from Ankh-Morpork, but Pratchett took a lot from Lankhmar from Fritz Lieber, Fafhrd, and Grey Mouser when he came up with Ankh-Morpork. So there's that. So that's one specific tradition, but it starts with Lankhmar. It's more explicit in the first one. In Color of Magic is a bit more explicit about the Lankhmar connection, but it is very much there. You know, it's one of the reasons why it has a Thieves Guild, for example, is very much, I mean, having a Thieves Guild in that specific form of a Thieves Guild has like its official sort of headquarters that everyone knows exists and so forth. That is something that Fritz Lieber came up with, and that then obviously trickled into tabletop role-playing games, and now everyone has Thieves Guilds in their fantasy worlds in that specific way. How are you liking the relationship so far? Well, I mean, the tooth is still annoying. I mean, the implant thing is still annoying because it is this temporary thing, and it makes speaking hard. I think. Obviously, I don't know how bad it sounds to you, and it sounds incredibly bad to me because um, I have that weird combination of both hearing it but also feeling how the shape of my mouth has changed by wearing this thing, and I know it's still uncomfortable, but Okay, in that case, yeah, they're definitely both good at that. And Ankh-Morpork is very much a character of its own in a lot of ways. I think one of the other things that Pratchett is really good at is doing world building or world description by just pointing out some of the, some bits and pieces and letting you sort of fill in the rest and still creating like a very, very tactile sort of city in a way where it feels like he's done way more description than he actually has. I mean, God's God's not a long book. It's maybe 400 pages, probably more like 350, I guess. And it does pack a lot into those 350 pages. That's pretty impressive in on its own, I think. Yes, yes, it is a tempered tooth. So the thing is, that I got the broken one. I got pulled out. The root got pulled out, and before you can put in like a full implant, you need to wait for something like 3 months for the bone to sort of regenerate and generally heal, because you've just pulled out a tooth, right? And during that time, I have this temporary thing, which I have to wear at least some part of the day, to prevent the other teeth moving closer together and closing up, well, not closing up the hole, but like, yeah, pushing together, which would be bad if you want to, put in like a replacement later on. So it's both a replacement tooth for, optic reasons, but it's also a bit like wearing braces to sort of like, push, keep the teeth apart, which is part of why it, is such a massive thing. And also why it's slightly uncomfortable, because it exerts some pressure on my jaw. Um, I never wore braces as a kid, so I don't know how bad, how it compares to that, but I think that's so. I assume that is a similar feeling. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm lispy. The other part is that because you have this thing sort of like permanently stuck in your jaw, basically, and in your mouth. I think one thing that I've noticed is that uh, I create way more saliva because of there being something physically stuck in my mouth, and that is kind of fucked up in its own, because it means you have to swallow more and create those wonderful mouth noises that everyone loves so much, right? That's I assume all of this will sort of like get better just by using it more, and bodies are surprisingly adaptable. I've always found, so I guess it's just a matter of time. But for now, it feels more awkward than I suspect it sounds to you. Yeah, it's very evocative. I agree, Britain. I mean, I think partly it is because he does not even begin to try for like immersive prose, but like constantly uses terminology from our world, and uses comparisons to makes media references and all of that stuff, which allows you as a reader to build up a lot of that stuff, the imagination, right? I think that works really well in. It obviously doesn't work for every type of fantasy, but Pratchett found a way to create this very specific style. It does very much remind me, sometimes at least, of Douglas Adams, and obviously with the footnotes and everything, there is a parallel to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in there, which is interesting because apparently both authors liked each other's prose, but only met very, very late in Adams's life. So there's yeah, I agree. I mean, there's two things to that, Britain, right? Like on the one hand, I think humor is one of those things where something that you might find incredibly funny, I might find he's trying too hard, and vice versa, because humor is so personal. The other part is that Pratchett does like started out much more like slapstick humor in a lot of ways, and moved further away from that. And with God's Guards being the eighth book in publication order, he's still figuring this out. The next one, for example, the next City Watch book, Men at Arms, while still having a lot of this kind of humor, is already much more serious in tone, darker, I would say, and the humor is has shifted a little more, and that kind of happens throughout the entire series. Like there's always humor, but it moves from place to place, and he's certainly took him a while to find his voice, or fully find his voice where he can deploy it in a way that is fitting to the specific book. which is, one of the reasons why I always say it makes a lot of sense to read all of Discworld in publication order once, because you can very much see Pratchett and his books sort of evolve together, and him figuring out what he wants to do, at the same time getting better at his craft. Certain of his interests, when they kind of change, and you can see them slowly also show in his books and so forth. It's just a really interesting way of seeing one author's biography and his works bibliography sort of like interact with each other and impact each other, I think, which is really interesting. Yeah, it is very much. I think that's one of the things where with Pratchett, as well as with Douglas Adams, it really matters that those are British authors. This is a very, very British book in a lot of ways, and I think that comes through sometimes in the humor, at least, and just in the way they use language. I think that's a very specifically British thing in a lot of ways. Yeah, yeah. Here, Spring is off. I have no idea about the Oscars. I haven't looked at. I haven't seen any of the movies. I have no idea what will happen. Frankly, I don't care. And yeah. Spring is coming here as well. It looks like. I mean, the weather has become very, very volatile, right? One day it's like 15, 16 degrees and the sun is shining. The next day is like 5 degrees Celsius, those being. Um, and it's raining again, and then we're back to sunshine the next day. So it's very volatile, but that's sort of like the first step before spring. It doesn't feel like winter anymore, is what I'm saying. Yeah, like earlier Pratchett does have more of the absurd, but Pratchett always loved like wordplay. Like there are so many bad jokes and wordplay in these books. That's very impressive, in that regard. Some of it took me forever to figure out. Reading it like 10 times, and suddenly I'm like, God, you bastard! Which I really really appreciate that. Is you know, and yeah, right. I mean, as I said, like it's not a long book, but it packs a lot. Like it has a fairly complex kind of plot going on, and it has a lot of fun bits and pieces and jokes, but it also has very evocative descriptions. It's yeah, there's a lot in there beyond just the jokes. You're right. It does smell like spring. That for sure. And I did watch both Dune movies so far, and they're okay. In some regards, I think they're good for what they're doing. I'm not happy with how with some of the ways with some of the choices they made. I think that's not necessarily a good thing. But considering what kind of source material you have, I think it's inevitable that you pick some aspects of the world over others, and focusing on the economic side and on the environmental bits, which are obviously there, especially the environmental stuff is obviously in Dune, um, and relegating the psychedelic and spiritual weirdness sort of to the back, I think makes sense for the 21st century. I'm missing it. I miss it because I always liked the weird hippie psychedelic parts of Dune very much, but I kind of see how that is not something that a lot of people in 2020 to 2025 would really connect with, right? I think that's part of the things where I'm not too happy with Dune. Yeah, yeah, Kale. I mean, those are kind of the absolutes, right? Although to go to a Terry Pratchett quote from Feet of Clay when Pratchett talked about how meteorology is such a fascinating science, and there's this wonderful sentence like, "Summer is a moving creature and likes to go south for the winter," and I'm like, that's that's incredibly funny. But yeah, and I'm very glad that you enjoy God's God so far, Britain. I thought you might, but with really enjoying Douglas Adams, there was a high chance you enjoyed it. But it's always nice when someone you likes something you also like, right? Gives us connections and all of that. Frankly, at this point in our climate change journey, I would very much prefer Christmas in summer to Christmas and it being like 10 degrees and rain, which kind of sucks. But guys, shall we, in fact, start sprinting? I have to do some actual stuff, including a bunch of messages and emails and coordinating because I'm going to a birthday party tomorrow, and it seems we forgot to, or some of us forgot to organize a present for one because it's two friends of mine are celebrating their birthdays together, and we all kind of, you know, made plans to get one present for one of them, and then we kind of forgot to give to get one for the other person. So now I think we need to figure that one out quickly because time pressures and all of that. So let's do all of that, and I'll be back at the top of the hour, and then we'll talk more about whatever else comes up in the meantime. right. I hope we're back. Let's find out. As my browser crashed in the middle of the sprint because, that's what we really need is, technology failing us at every single moment. Yeah. Okay. I can hear myself. That is good. Yeah. I was trying to write an email and then Google Mail decided to crash my browser. Really good. How did you guys do? I did, figure out some parts of my trip to Athens next week, by which I mean I found out when my plane is actually going. One of those things you kind of need to know. And emailed a friend who's flying from the same airport roughly the same time, so we can possibly meet up beforehand. And getting through Athens, through Frankfurt airport is a bit of a challenge when you're blind, as you may imagine. If you've ever been there, it's one of Europe's biggest airports. So there's that. And if I don't have to do that alone, that's always a nice thing, right? So that is one thing I did, and I did reply to some comments. Got some comments on older videos. Always interesting to see when someone discovers a video that's like 3 years old, and in this case, someone apparently watched my video on Inhibitor Phase by Alistair Reynolds, which I guess must have been from 2023. I think maybe 2022. One of those. Been a while. So yeah, nice to see. And hello, Britain, and hello, dear Demidrak. I hope you did good things. So yeah, I did all of that. I did read news on, well, some interesting and some not so interesting things. All in all, not too bad, I think. Could have been worse. Could have been worse. So I guess I can do something more productive, writing-wise or whatever, during the next sprints. I still haven't solved the birthday present problem, but maybe that'll happen in the next hour or two. Hope so. How far have you progressed in Memories of Ice now? Still Kapustan, or has Kapustan been liberated, so to speak? Or what's left of it, I guess. Well, I mean, it is late where you are, so going to bed is probably a very good idea, all things considered, right? I mean, yeah. Still not quite sure whether I will record the Mormonism video with the tooth thing in there or not, because I'm still not sure about. I'm just like very insecure about the whole speaking thing. We'll see. Especially since like talking quickly and then making a pause, reading chat and so forth is fine, but talking for like 20 minutes straight for one video part is a whole other thing right now. I don't know. We'll see. I have some time to figure that one out, I guess. But I'm sure I'll finish my reread of Rough Stone Rolling today, And with that out of the way, I should be able to, have my brain back to where it was back in the day when I first recorded the parts on Joseph Smith. And now that I've read more stuff, I can probably add more to it. And we'll see how well that goes. But that's kind of the plan, to ideally record the intro and the parts on Joseph Smith and early Mormonism today. Then I could record other parts on Mormon theology tomorrow, and the part on the Utah sort of stuff around Brigham Young and so forth on Sunday, which would then allow me to do the parts on the basically the progressive era, the post Brigham Young era, which had John Taylor, Wilford Woodruff, Joseph F. Smith, and whoever came after that, which I constantly forget because not exactly a very colorful first president all the way, to the 1930s. That's sort of like one sort of part of to like roughly like 1880-ish to 1930-ish is one sort of like big era, and then you need to talk about the rightward shift from 1936-ish onward, all the way until today. And there I need to figure out whether I want to break it up into the all the way up until 1970, is it 79, when they banned finally got rid of the priesthood ban for black people. Maybe that there, and then go to the completely modern, whether that deserves another break or whether it doesn't. That's something I still need to sort of like sort out. But if I manage to record all of that by, say, Tuesday evening, I could have that video up while I'm away in Athens, and that would certainly, I think, give everyone enough to watch while I'm away. But that is, of course, a fairly tight plan when it comes to recording. Luckily, at least, I have the thumbnail already, so I could just get all of that done, uploaded, and yeah, see what happens. The other plan is to record a video on The River Has Roots next Tuesday. It comes out on Tuesday. It's another debut novel, like a standalone novel by Amal Al-Mohtar, who wrote This Is How You Lose the Time War together with Max Gladstone, and has published some short stories and some poetry before, but that's her debut novel. And it sounds very much like like it has been influenced by stuff like London in the Mist, which, and it also seems to be a fairly short novel. Like right now, Audible claims it's like a 4-hour audiobook, which is, something I could presumably read in one day and then go and record a video on it before I leave. Yeah, I can imagine that that being a good chat in a lot of ways. So yeah, that's sort of my plan if all goes well, which it usually doesn't, right? So we'll have to see about that. But maybe it'll work. Maybe it'll all work out, and I go to the gym. I come back from the gym. I record the introduction to the video. I let my camera cool down again, then I can record the part of the early Mormonism tonight, ideally over a couple of hours, because I need to record that one in parts because it takes too long. When you say break, you mean your break from doing BookTube things for 1 week? I assume. I'm glad it works. I'm glad it works for you, man. But yeah, that's sort of my rough plans. If I come up with something else, like a quick video about a book or something, then that would be, really cool. Because I already feel the pressure of putting up a video when you don't, you see the numbers going down and down and down. I'm like, oh God, and I haven't done anything, have I? And yeah, frustrating. Even though I kind of know in my head that that's obviously just external pressure from YouTube trying to get me to create content, because of course they want me to do work for them basically. So we'll have to find out how all of that goes. Maybe I'll have a spontaneous idea either today or tomorrow or on Sunday. Yeah, you're right there, Brittany. It is somewhat addictive, and I think that's kind of what both on the just doing this and having people comment on your videos and so forth can be, because it does obviously you create some adrenaline and some endorphins, right? On the one hand, and on the other hand, that's kind of what the mechanics of YouTube also tap into when they constantly remind you of stuff and give you numbers of when stuff has been, how your videos are doing, what you could do to get more numbers up, and stuff. It taps into that thing, and it can become very much addictive, which is where the burnout danger kind of comes in, of course. So, speaking of addiction, that's not a good way of starting this, right? um, let's settle for the next sprint. I'll be back shortly before the full hour to pack my stuff, to say goodbye, pack my stuff, and run down to the gym. Um, I wish you good luck with your endeavors. Should you go to sleep, I wish you good night. And thank you for being here. All right, and I am sort of back for now. Hello, Chantel. How are you doing? Good luck with that trip. I have to wait like 3 months until they screw in the implant, and then another, couple of months until I get the tooth replaced. Until then, I'm stuck with this temporary thing, which is annoying. But what can you do? Don't don't knock your teeth out is one way, I guess. And hello, Xena. I hope I pronounced that correctly. This is unfortunately at the end of the sprints because I have to run to go to the gym and so on. But I'll be back on Monday at 8 a.m. my time, and Tuesday, not on Wednesday, because turns out my flight to Athens is at 11, so I need to get up early to be at the airport in time. So no sprints from Friday until from Wednesday onwards until either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on how late it is where I come back on the 10th from Athens. And how wrecked I am, because that also may happen. So yeah, that's where we are. I think I have managed to do all the things I wanted to do this morning, which is good. So now it's just reading more about Joseph Smith Jr. and the big banking fraud of 1836, I think, is where we are now, and all the other fun bits. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, maybe there'll be a video or something over the weekend. I don't know. Depends on how things are going, I guess. But I'll try to do something. And of course, work on the Mormonism video, because maybe I'll manage to actually get it done in time. And wouldn't that be cool? I guess we all have to dream sometimes. So yeah, thanks for hanging out. I do appreciate that a lot. And yeah, I hope y'all have a good weekend, depending on what you plan for the weekend. And yeah, see you very soon somewhere.